Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Stories from Real Life. I'm your host, Melvin E. Edwards. Thank you for joining me for the podcast where our personal stories remind us how much we can learn from each other. Today's guest is someone whose impact may not make headlines, but without people like her, our communities wouldn't function. Karen Bates is a school bus driver in Utah, a role she's held for 14 years. She's been married for 34 years, is the proud mother of 5, and the grandmother to 3. But to the children who climb those steps of the school bus each morning, she's more than a driver. She's a familiar face, a safe place, and a steady presence in an unpredictable world. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on what it really means to carry the hearts of children every single day. This is her story. Miss Karen, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start at the beginning. So tell me about your life growing up. What kind of kid were you? And what did home feel like back then?
Well, I was born and raised in a small farming town in Eastern Oregon, and I was actually the 7th of 14 children. Both of my parents had been married before, so it was a his, hers, and theirs, but they did have 11 kids together. So very large family. My dad was a school teacher, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom for most of my youth growing up. I was very active in sports, but my love was for cheerleading. I was a little league cheerleader, middle school cheerleader, and a high school cheerleader, and I loved everything about it. My home life was good. With my dad being a school teacher, it was, finances were tight, but I didn't realize how tight they were until about 8th or 9th grade, and then that's when my dad resigned from his job, and things were really, really super tight at that point. But, you get through it, and life is good in general.
In general. All right. So with that many kids in your house, what were the dynamics like? You were the middle kid, and a middle kid. There is certainly a middle kid dynamic when you got 3. What's a middle kid dynamic when they're 14?
Everything gets blamed on you. And I mean everything, but there was always someone to play with. My sister that's just older than me, we're 11 months apart, and we were the best of friends and we were the worst of enemies. We fought like cats and dogs, but anytime we needed somebody to do something with, we were always there for each other. It was great. There were 4 of us that were born in 3.5 years, and so all 4 of us were in high school together. And it was great. We had a lot of fun growing up. And my grandparents lived not too far away, about 15 minutes away. And they owned a farm. And so we would go over to their house quite a bit and play on the farm. And that was a lot of fun. My grandpa taught me how to, I forget the name of it. The pipe, setting pipe. That's what it was. We would set pipe in his fields. And so that was fun. Got to ride on the tractor and watched him chop off chicken heads. It was just, that saying, chicken running around with its head cut off. Yeah, that is very true. I thought that was just a saying, but it is very true.
I've seen that too. My parents both grew up on farms and wanted to. I grew up in the city, and they tried to expose me to some of what they had dealt with. And I watched my dad wring a chicken's neck one time, and I was traumatized.
Yes. Yes. I actually enjoyed milking a cow, grabbing its teats and going to town. It was
I wouldn't recommend grabbing them and going to town, because that would probably be painful. Don't put them on your bus and drive them into town or anything.
Right. Yeah, no, but
Yeah, not literally going to town.
Right. And fresh milk was the best. And my grandpa would bring, especially during the tighter years when I was growing up, my grandpa would bring over gallons of milk every week. And then my mom would skim the cream off the top, and she would make whipped cream and butter and all sorts of fun stuff. So yeah, it was good. It was good.
Did you churn your own butter?
We would shake jars. So we didn't have an actual butter churn, but we would shake the jars to make the butter.
Fresh butter, fresh cream, fresh milk.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good.
Where were you educated, and were there any teachers or moments that left a lasting impression on you?
So I actually went to, it was called Rick's College at the time in Eastern Idaho. It's now called BYU Idaho or Brigham Young University Idaho. And I don't I don't think of one teacher that had a positive, like an outstanding positive impact on me. There was one teacher of mine that, for whatever reason, she did not like me, and this is at college. And she would give me D's and F's on all of my assignments. And then finally, one time, this was in an English class, so I had a friend that was an English major, and so he actually wrote a paper for me one time, and she still gave me a D on it. So that has always stood out to me. So it's interesting how good teachers can have positive impacts on you, and bad teachers with biases can have a negative impact on you. I mean, because that was 35 years ago. So,
And you still TP that teacher's house if that teacher's still alive?
well, she lives kind of far away, and I'm sure she's retired at this point. So,
She lives far away. It sounds like you know where she lives, just in case.
well, Rexburg, Idaho is about 4.5 hours from here.
So, what were some challenges you faced growing up?
The finances. Um, I look back now based on what my husband and I can afford now, and at the time I didn't realize how bad off we were. But I do remember there was one time, it was Christmas time, and my dad was doing substitute teaching and trying to sell insurance, and it just wasn't working very well. And we all knew that we had about $25 in our own personal savings accounts. And we kind of got together and we said, hey, mom and dad, you can take that money out of our savings and buy us a Christmas, so that we can have Christmas morning. And it was tight. My uncle brought over a tree on Christmas Eve that he had gone up into the hills and chopped down. And generous people in the neighborhood had brought over boxes of food and small gifts for the kids. And that Christmas has always stood out to me because I knew it was tight. I just didn't realize how tight. And so grateful for kind-hearted people.
So, did that teach you a lesson about community service, community
It
involvement?
did, and it's always stood out to me to always be kind and helpful whenever possible. And it's given me, even now, I do a lot of GoFundMe's, and I'm not saying this to brag, but if you have the opportunity, even if it's a stranger, help wherever you can, because it just makes you feel good, and it obviously helps those that need the help.
All right. So, let's talk about your current family, your um, immediate family. How did you meet your husband, and what's the secret to being married 34 years so far?
My best friend married his best friend, and we met at their wedding reception in all places of Eastern Oregon, which is the last place I thought I would ever meet my husband. It was my tiny small hometown, and I just never ever thought I would meet my husband there. But I did, and we were married shortly after, and like 4 months later we got married.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a very fast courtship and a very fast engagement. So but we've been married for 34 years. They have 5 kids, we have 5 kids, and it's in the same order: girl, boy, girl, girl, girl. And so we've had a
Wow.
lot of fun with that.
Are they around the same age?
They are. I had a couple of miscarriages, and then hers, the last 2 or 3 got spread out by 4 years. So towards the end, the kids got spread out by a year and a half. But the first 2 or 3, they're all really close in age.
Were they close as friends? Did they know each other?
They knew each other, but where we lived so far apart, it was hard to get them on a super strong friendship. But they know of each other, and yeah, when they were growing up, they had fun together.
So
So
tell me more about your immediate family. Your 5 kids and your 3 grandkids. What is being Miss Karen? What does that look like at your house?
it's had its ups and downs. I think the bus driving has been very good for my soul as we've gone through life's challenges. But I've always tried to help my kids know that they were loved. That wasn't something that was shown in my home growing up. And And especially being the middle child, there was just a lot of interesting things that happened when I was growing up. And so I always wanted to make sure my children knew that I loved them. And I don't know how good of a job I've done, but yeah, being a bus driver has really helped me do it, has really helped me show the love that I have for a lot of people. And it's also shaped my views differently. But my grandkids are just the light of my life, as you know, with yours. And I just love them to death. It's so much better being a grandparent than a parent, right?
Yes, I've said multiple times that if we'd known it was going to be this good, we would have had grandkids and just skipped the kid part.
Right. That's the reward we get for going
Yeah,
through life
for
with our kids.
surviving them, surviving kids.
Yeah.
So it must have been 5 kids. It's most people would consider that a large family, but coming from your family, you probably thought that was no big deal.
Right. And my husband grew up in a family with one brother and then a stepbrother and a stepsister, even though they're just brother and sister. But coming from a smaller family like his and a bigger family like mine, we thought we would shoot for the middle and go for 6 to 8 kids, but I'm really glad we stopped at 5 for my own mental health.
So what I hear here is the last one got on your nerves, and you thought, all right, that's it, that's enough. Is that what you're saying?
No. So with my siblings, the 14, 12 of us are girls. And as you know, there's a lot of girl drama. And
Wow, I couldn't
so
handle
when
that.
I had my own kids, we had the 4 girls and a boy. And I thought, oh, God sure has a lovely sense of humor. And so when we found out that so we would have stopped at 4 kids, but we said, well, let's try one more time and see if we can get a brother for our son. And when we found out it was another girl, I said, I'm done. That's it. And so she actually was one of our easiest kids. She had a very sweet personality, very quiet. She was very no drama, and she was actually a great caboose for our family train.
That's funny. Caboose.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
I've
was a
got
great
four.
caboose.
I've got 4 kids, and 3 of them are girls.
So
So
know.
yeah, so I know. Man, it makes my head hurt thinking about 12 girls.
Yes, and I shared a bathroom and a bedroom with 3 other sisters my entire life. So when I went off to college and only had to share a bedroom with one other person, it was very heaven, very much heaven.
All right, so let's talk about the school bus driving. So, what led you to become a school bus driver, and did you ever imagine that this would become such a big part of your identity?
I did not, no. So I had seen advertisements at the schools that my kids went to that they were hiring for bus drivers. But at the time, I was working from home and enjoyed my job that I was doing, and it was paying the same as a school bus driver at the time. So I didn't really feel the need to change. But then, as the newspaper industry was dying out, so was my job. And I actually had my hours cut and my pay cut. And so then that's when I started looking into a bus driver. And I thought we lived close enough to the schools that my kids didn't ride the bus to school. But I thought, well, this will be fun to drive for their field trips. So that's why I signed up, was to be able to drive for their field trips. And that was a lot of fun. My youngest 3 kids, I got to drive for quite a few of their field trips. And it's been a blast. I've loved almost every minute of it.
Let's talk about the almost part.
So, when I first became a bus driver, I was assigned to a special needs route, I loved the kids dearly. They were so funny and amazing. But driving 105 miles every day in a special needs bus took its toll on my back. And I have herniated discs in my back. So I would go home just completely thrashed and was completely useless to my family. And so that part was hard. So then I switched over to a regular ed route, and I was assigned to a middle school that the kids were 90% were Hispanic and lived in a trailer court, and a lot of them came from very broken homes. So there was a lot of behavior issues. And honestly, so my supervisor, when she gave me that route, she said, this is the route nobody wants. And they've had like I don't know, I think it was like 9 or 10 drivers in the previous 4 years. They just couldn't get anybody to stay on the route. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a try and see. And it was such a rough route that I was fully planning on bidding on a different route when they came up the next time. And then I was driving one morning, and a ninth grade girl, her name was Abby, she said, "You know, you're different than the other bus drivers we've had." And I asked her what she meant. And she says, "You actually talk to us and you make us feel like we're important." And that was almost 14 years ago. And that has always stuck with me. And right then and there, I decided these kids need me and I'm going to stay on this route. And I did. I stayed on it for 9 years. I would still be on it if the superintendent hadn't switched to their start time at school. And I'm not going to lie, it was really, really hard that first 2 or 3 years. I was writing up kids left and right. They were accustomed to actually behaving so badly that they would chase off the bus drivers they didn't like. But once they learned that they could trust me and I could trust them, their behavior changed drastically. And after like that third year, I didn't have to write up as many students. And of course, some of the harder kids were moving on to high school at that point. And then their younger siblings started cycling through and they knew what to expect. But, you know, I just tried to make it fun. Like I would decorate my bus. I still do. I decorate my bus for the holidays. And I remember the principal coming out one year and saying, he says, "Yeah, the kids always tell me how much you decorate the bus and they love it." And I'm like, these are middle school kids and they love having a decorated bus. But that meant a lot to them. And then one time, so for Christmas, I give out 2-liter bottles of soda. And the first year that I did that, a lot of the kids were like, "I get this all to myself. This is all for me." And I said, "Yeah, it's yours. Take it home." And seeing the surprise and the gratitude that they got their own bottle of soda it just touched my soul. And so I've done that ever since. And even now with the kids that are in more middle class neighborhoods, they appreciate having their own bottle of soda. It's such a minute gift, you know, such a small gift, but it means the world to them for some reason. I don't understand why, but you can just see the gratitude on their face that they get a whole 2-liter bottle of soda. And so that just has touched me and it has stayed with me. And especially those kids on that middle school route, they changed my life. They really did. And you know, and is it okay if I talk politics for a minute?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I used to be very anti illegal immigration, and driving that route, that middle school route with mostly Hispanic kids, and knowing that a lot of them were probably here as dreamers or maybe even illegally, and seeing how good their parents were and how those kids tried so hard, even if they couldn't speak English, they tried. That changed my view on illegal immigration. And I say, as long as they're not committing crimes once they're here, let them stay. We need them. And so that's my little political rant for the day, but
It's timely. It is definitely timely.
it is it changed my views on a lot of things driving that route, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful for those kids. I don't know if they'll ever see this interview or if they even remember me, but I'm grateful for those kids. They changed my life.
I'm guessing they remember you.
I hope so.
Even if they never hear this, I'm sure they remember you.
Yeah.
So after 14 years on the road, what do you love most about driving a school bus?
I actually love seeing the kids every day. I know all of them by name. I talk with them all the time. There's kids that will sit up front every day just because they love talking to me and they tell me what sports they're doing, what vacations they've gone on, things that they got for Christmas every year. They just really open up to me. And I've had quite a few funny stories over the years. I told you one of them, but I just remembered another one. And
Share it.
well, So when there was a girl on my bus a few years ago, it was on my elementary route, and she would tell us everything about her parents. Sometimes I felt a little embarrassed, but yeah, I guess her dad had a sleepwalking problem, and he urinated on their pool table one night when he was sleepwalking. So yeah, stuff like that. She was very vocal about the things her parents would do. So be careful on what you tell your kids. Because they will tell their bus drivers. The one story I shared with you was at Thanksgiving time, and I was telling the boy I asked him what his favorite pie was, and he said pumpkin pie. And then he asked me what my favorite pie was, and I said turtle pie. And and he kind of looked at me weird. And I never ever do this because I am not a quick thinker, but that time I was, and so I went with his strange look, and I said, yeah, you have to be really careful when you cut the meat out of the shell, but it makes a fantastic turtle pie. And that poor kid looked so traumatized. And finally, the next day, I had to admit to him that it wasn't a real turtle pie, that it's a chocolate caramel pie. So,
He probably
but
couldn't. He probably had nightmares. You cutting up the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles into putting them in your pie with some. Who knows what kind of crust? The crust is probably the shell from the turtle.
yeah, crushed up shell. Yeah, I never can think of stuff like that ever that quickly, but I did that day, and that's one of my favorite memories from being a bus driver is that story.
All right, so it makes me think about your name, which these days can be a slur.
Yeah,
Have any of your students ever called you that in that context?
not that I can think of. In fact, a lot of them just call me Miss Karen, and I haven't heard them say negative things about it, whether they are saying quietly or whatever. I don't know, but because of that slur, I've had to make extra effort to be. I try to be nice and kind to everybody anyway, but because of that slur, I've had to be kind, even more kind to people, just because you don't know what they've been affected by other people making fun of that slur or what.
So you stop recording people having picnics and stuff. But
I can say I've never done that. I've never tried to get anyone in trouble for, having a picnic or having black skin or whatever ridiculous thing is going on. So,
so you're a
no,
good Karen. You're a good Karen. We'll call you the
that's
good
what I've
Karen.
been told. I'm a good Karen.
All right. So what's a typical morning look like for you before the sun even comes up?
So my alarm goes off at 4:30 every morning. Because of my bad back, I do like to take a hot bath before I go to work. So I'll do that for about half an hour, and then I just get ready for work. I usually leave my house about 5:45 a.m. and get to work by 6 o'clock, and then I have to pre-trip my bus, which is about 10 minutes. It takes 10 minutes to go through all the checkpoints and make sure the bus is running properly, it's fueled, the tires are filled, things like that. And then I leave at 6:30 to go pick up my high school kids. It makes for a busy morning, but it's good. So,
How do your routes work? And schools in your area of Utah, do high schoolers start first, and then middle school and elementary school? Is that the sequence?
yeah, and because there's so many middle schools and elementary schools, they actually have a regular start elementary and then a late start elementary. So I drive for a high school, and then I have about a 30 to 40-minute break, and then I drive my first elementary and then drop them off, and then I have about a 10 to 15-minute break, and then I have my second elementary. And the reason they do that is because our boundaries are pretty big, and there's so many kids here in Utah that they just don't have the room to put all three schools or all four schools on one bus. And plus with it helps with behavior problems so that high school kids aren't trying to bully middle school kids or middle school kids trying to bully elementary kids. By keeping it separate, it just kind of helps with behavior problems. So yeah, so I do my high school first, and then like I said, I have about a 30 to 40 minute break, and then I drive my first elementary route. um That one only has about 20 kids on it. And then my second elementary route has about 45 kids on it.
Okay. So you touched on this already, but I want to ask the question in case you have more stories you want to share. How has this job shaped the way you see kids, families, and your community?
It opens your eyes really, because you think that people are having a great life and you really don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And when those kids learn to trust you, they open up to you and you hear some awesome, hilarious, funny stories, and then you hear absolutely heartbreaking stories. Um, One girl on my route, on my elementary route a few years ago, her parents, they were married, but her mom suffered from severe depression and was in and out of the hospital with depression. And so her oldest child was the oldest. She was in sixth grade, and there were four younger siblings, at least four younger siblings. And so basically, that child at age 11 or 12 had to become the mom of her younger siblings. And she had a grandparent that would come over and help her in the mornings a little bit, but it was her job to get the kids ready for school because mom was always sick with depression. And so it teaches you to never judge people by a book. I grew up in a home where my mom was constantly judging other people. And so that grows with you and it becomes part of you. And then you realize, okay, I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I need to not be judgmental. So I think about that little girl and hope she's doing well. I think about her quite a bit, actually.
Okay. So what's one of your favorite stories of your time as a bus driver and a moment that still makes you smile, in addition to the turtle pie?
I don't know if it's an actual story, but just the love and the joy that I feel from the kids, what I can give to the kids. Like the first girl I told you about, how she said, you're different from other bus drivers. You make us feel important. You talk to us, you ask us questions, just making them feel seen obviously meant a lot to her. And so that's what I try to do is I just help the kids feel loved and safe on my bus, and then feel like they can open up to me, they can trust me. We do have to be careful, with things that are said and done, especially about 2 years ago, I was accused of being a groomer on the bus by a parent. And so I'm still drive for the same school, but I had to switch routes. And then, but there's also been I've heard from about 9 or 10 other drivers. That's kind of seems to be a thing, is if the parents don't like you, they accuse you of being a groomer. That's kind of how they get you off the route.
Sad. That is sad.
Yeah, it is sad, especially here in Utah, where we're taught to be kind and loving and to not make things up about other people and stuff. Good Christian values, and that doesn't always ring with some people. So,
That's when you get a chance to be the bad Karen, and show them who they think they're getting. You can say, well, you conjured this up, so blame yourself.
right? Yeah, I learned a while back that karma has a way of working itself out, and so I just wait for karma to do her magic. And
So, what's been an emotional moment for you on the bus with the kids, and how did it affect you personally?
um, well, like I said, that first year that I gave out the sodas and seeing those kids, middle school is just a hard age to go through, but just seeing how grateful that they were that they got their own bottle of soda and that it was all for just them. They didn't have to share it with another student or, um, I'm sure they shared it with their siblings or whatever, but that was just touching. And that's why even though it keeps getting more and more expensive, Coke keeps raising their prices. Um, I just do it because I know how much the kids appreciate it. So
How many bottles do you buy a school year?
about 125 between all three schools. I do about 125. So, yeah, it can get kind of pricey.
You
Last year was
keep
the
your
first year I asked for help. I'm like, please help.
you're
This is
keeping
going to cost
your
about
local
$200.
supplier busy.
Right. So the stores that I go through to buy it, they've actually been pretty helpful in trying to help me get the best price possible. So yeah, that's been helpful. But
That's nice. That's nice.
yeah,
All right. So, what do you think people underestimate about school bus drivers?
well, they think we're uneducated. And if you were to talk with, I don't know, 10 to 20 bus drivers, you would see that we've all had some sort of form of education. If it's an older person, we have a lot of retired people that come and drive for our district. They all have had education and careers. We're not just a bunch of bumbling idiots driving down the road. Um, Something that I would like people to understand is that the average 40-foot school bus weighs 30,000 pounds, 15 tons, and we can't stop on a dime. And in fact, for every 10 miles per hour that we're driving down the road, we need at least one school bus length to stop safely without burning up our brakes and rubbing rubber on the tire or on the road, you know. Um, but yeah, just be patient around school buses and be kind and don't make lane changes right in front of us. Again, we can't stop quickly, and especially if there's kids on the bus, you're putting them in danger. So yeah, just be kind and patient around school buses.
All right. So, what's the biggest change for you as a person over your last 14 years?
Um, well, like I said, during my little political rant, my views on politics have changed a lot by driving kids and learning of their stories and learning how um, corrupt governments really do have an everyday effect on Americans. And so my political views have actually changed quite a bit over the last 14 years. And so yeah, that's we need to be kind, we need to be helpful, we need to stop thinking about ourselves and start thinking about others and how our actions and beliefs affect the people around us.
So, when you think about some of the kids you've driven over the years, what are some of the what are some of the first memories that come to your mind?
Oh, even from the kids that I had my first year, I wonder what they're doing, what they're up to. Like that girl, Abby, that I talked about. Let's see, she was 14, so she'd be 28 now. Is she married? Does she have kids? You know, things like that. I often think about the kids, especially those early ones that when I first became a bus driver, they absolutely changed my life. And I hope someday they'll know how much I loved them and loved driving for them and getting to know them. And yeah.
You just made me think of something, and I'll tell you. I'll ask a question, and I'll tell you why I thought of the question. So, have any kids ever been left on your school bus at the end of your route?
Yes, I've actually had two kids fall asleep on my bus, and my seats are blue, kind of in between a navy blue and a royal blue, kind of in that shade there. And both of them were wearing blue coats or blue outfits, and so they blended in with the seats. And so when I did the child check at the end of the day, I almost didn't see one of them. And she actually popped up and she's like, "Oh, I think I fell asleep." So I was like, "Yeah, you think so?" One of them, he actually didn't get off at his stop, and so his mom had called in to the transportation office. So, and that was with my first elementary. So when I got to the second elementary, I was able to go look for him. He was actually in a black coat, which is the color of my floors, and he had crawled under the seats and went to sleep. And so I didn't see him when I was doing the child check because he blended in with the floor. But um, yeah, I've had a couple. But for only two kids for 14 years,
Yeah,
that's a pretty good
what's a
track
kid or
record.
two here or there? They got home
Yes,
eventually. It's no big deal.
yeah. So luckily, the one girl that popped up and says, "Oh, I think I fell asleep." That was actually I was probably halfway back to base when that happened, and so I was able to turn around and take her back to her stop. But the one kid that fell asleep underneath the seats, I got to my next school and found him. So
Well, the reason I asked that question is because I remembered a situation with my two youngest kids, my son and my youngest daughter, where for a couple of years they were in the same school at the same time. And he fell asleep after school on the bus, and she saw that he was sleeping, and she decided she was going to just leave him there. So she got off the bus and left him on the bus. And apparently the bus only went a couple more stops before he woke up and realized where he was. And he just got off and walked home. But that's why I thought of that story. So sometimes younger siblings, older siblings, who knows? Who knows?
yeah, so they you used to just turn off your bus. I mean, from day one, even during my training, I was taught that at the end of the route, you go do a child check. But there were a lot of bus drivers apparently that weren't doing that. And it's just where you walk to the back of the bus and then walk back up to the front. But like I said, if they're wearing clothing that blends in with the seats or the floor, it can still be hard to see them. But now they've put in a system where if you turn on if your bus has been running more than 10 minutes, or if you turn on your stop lights at any point, then once you turn off your bus, you have 2 minutes to go back to the back of your bus and hit the child lock button that deactivates the alarm. Otherwise the alarm goes off, and it's a big loud horn to remind you to do the child check. Yeah, so instances of leaving kids on the bus have decreased dramatically in our district since they implemented that system.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
All right, so I just have a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
So, when you look back at your life so far, what are you most proud of?
I would say my kids. Um, I have almost four college graduates. My two youngest daughters graduate next May from Utah Valley University. One is in I forget what her actual degree will be in, but she wants to do nonprofit work. She served a service mission for our church, which really opened her eyes to the importance of serving and the importance of having nonprofit agencies help people out throughout the country. So that's what she wants to do, is nonprofit work. And then my youngest daughter actually graduates from nursing school next May. So both of them will get to walk at the same time and go on and do good things in their careers. And my middle child, she has an associate's, but she actually got certified in nutrition. She's a stay-home mom, and that's what she wants to do, and that's great, because that's all I wanted to do when I was first married. And so yeah, my kids are all great. They're doing great in their careers, and they're good people, and I just couldn't be more proud of my kids. So
Well, it sounds like you're a great mom, and I'm sure you were and are still,
well, I tried.
and an even better grandmother, I'm sure.
I hope so. I love my little grandkiddos.
All right, last question for the day. What could parents do that would make your job easier?
Oh boy. Well, one, if there's an issue with the bus driver, I hope that they would, before accusing you of awful things, go have a meeting with the bus driver and the supervisors at the transportation department. Find out what the actual story is, the real story is, because that's something that I was not allowed to do, was have a meeting with the parent that accused me of being a groomer. And it's like, if you could have heard my side of the story, you wouldn't think that about me. It hasn't been as bad the last couple of years, but just, I know when I was switched to the different route after that happened, I had a lot of parents for Christmas that year write me notes on the Christmas cards that they gave me and said, "Thank you for having such a great smile when you pick up our kids every day. It just means the world to us that you're excited to see our kids every day." So if there's one positive thing that you can do for your kids if they ride the bus, is to thank their bus drivers, show appreciation. It is a hard job, especially we live in a me first world now, and people drive crazy around school buses. And so show gratitude to your kids as bus driver, and let them know how much you appreciate them, because it's hard to get around when people aren't very nice driving around you. So yeah, thank them and show appreciation.
All right, that's a good way to wind up the episode today. So our guest for this episode has been Karen Bates, known to her students as Miss Karen. She's joined us from Utah. Karen, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate hearing your stories.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So sometimes the most powerful influence in a child's life isn't a celebrity or a politician. It's the person who shows up every morning, rain or shine, before the world even stirs. Miss Karen reminds us of the purpose that doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it comes with a bus full of kids and a heart full of care. If this story moves you, share it with someone who will appreciate it and feel inspired to show appreciation for their child's bus driver. This is Stories from Real Life. Until next time, don't forget to shine your light wherever you go.